Namaste, beloveds. I'm so grateful that we have this medium to come together during these unprecedented and tumultuous times that we are living through right now. And it couldn't have happened in the past that together we around the world can join hearts, can join emotionally, and even though we're physically isolated, each in our own home, that doesn't mean we have to be isolated with our hearts. It doesn't mean that we have to be emotionally isolated. And it's such an important time for community, for sharing with each other, and for using the potent and powerful tools of the journey that can help you come to a place of deep stillness inside of yourselves and to a place of clarity and being able to take a guided action during a time where we're all of us living in the unknown. And so I welcome you to welcome all your friends, even if they don't know about the journey. This is a time that we need to bond together as a humanity. And as you know, the journey's in 39 countries and it's translated into 24 languages. And so we're being joined as hearts from all the way around the world. And you know, it's a funny thing, as I've looked at all those maps of how the coronavirus has traveled, I was meditating one day and I saw this worldwide network that together we were actually all beyond connected. It didn't matter what country we're in, that together we're sharing in this crisis that is facing humanity at this time. And so it is a time to come together as a human, as humanity, and to support one another and serve one another, to help one another, even if we have to keep the physical distance. And I just want to share with you what brought me to this stage that I'm right now in Europe when I'm meant to be on stage teaching in India. And for those of you that know my schedule, I had just finished the huge fire that the Advanced No Ego Retreat is in Tiruvannamalai, the 10-day retreat that I gave there. And we took a flight to Goa to give the Life Transformation Week, which is that 8-day practitioners training program. And I was really looking forward to offering this. And we ended up in a hotel where they were using a toxic spray. And because I'm so pure in my diet and so pure in the way I live my life, I'm very highly sensitive when there are chemical sprays around. And I had this huge reaction where my lips swelled up and my tongue swelled up, my throat swelled up, and I couldn't sleep all night. And this, finally the next day I said, please, you've got to stop using this spray. And I opened all the doors and aired out my bedroom, but I didn't know that the spray was actually in the air condition. So the next night, because we're in India and it's hot there, you know, and I put on the air conditioning again, I'm assaulted, and my body's getting run down, and by the third day, I developed a cold, and I was just run down. No matter how wonderfully I take care of myself, and so we're there. The coronavirus is happening, and I realize I don't have don't have flu symptoms, but that I have no business standing on stage. And so for the first time in the 26 years of teaching the journey, and you know I teach every week, there's never been a seminar that I have canceled or had to postpone or couldn't be on stage for. No matter how, I may have even broken a leg, where I had a triple fracture in my ankle, and I still got on stage and was on stage for 2 hours before my doctor took me up to the hospital in South Africa, in Joburg, and had to have the cast put on. And so I feel such a deep commitment to service, to be wanting to be used by grace, that it was with a great sadness of heart, and it was one of the hardest decisions I've had to make. But I had to turn it over to Dr. Rangana Chowdhury to give the whole Life Transformation Week, which is so interactive. and to give that with videos of me giving the content and her hosting it and carrying everybody into the processes. And so we instead had to get a plane out that night, which turned out to be synchronistically the most perfect thing that could happen, because I didn't know this, but we were coming back to our summer home here in Greece, and that we share with Gabby and Cliff. And I had already decided before I got the cold that I was going to come back and take 2 weeks just to go into silence and go into self-isolation, not because I was ill, but because I felt that it seemed like life was offering us this opportunity to just get quiet, to go within, to be still, to take things slower. And I even had decided not to go on my ski trip, which I always do as soon as I get back from the Southern Hemisphere. And I'd just been in Australia and then India, and I was ready to go to Lech. And I'd already decided I'm going to cancel that. And when we arrived in Greece, we got a message, of course, from Lech am Arlberg in Austria that the resort had already been closed. I was so grateful we got here when we did. We went into lockdown 2 days after we arrived here. And suddenly my prayer to be in self-isolation was absolutely come true. And Kevin and Cliff skidded in just at the last moment, the day before we went into lockdown. And so we're all of us here. As a matter of fact, I never thought in a million years I'd ever be shooting a video from my bedroom here. But that's what I'm doing. And, you know, it calls for unprecedented experiences for all of us. But it's been a powerful time for me. One of the things I do, because of the work that I'm such a world citizen, not just a US citizen, but I travel and work within the heart of all the countries that I work in, is that I stay up with the news, reading newspapers from various different countries. And I heard some news today that I personally just, my whole heart went out to Italy. Now, you know, this is a country of only 60 million people. But right now, they've had more deaths from coronavirus than China, a country of 1.38 billion people. And I had received from my sister, who lives in New Jersey in the United States, and she's been told to do all of her work from home on WebEx and Zoom. And she wrote to me that she'd seen a video, and 80% of the deaths in Italy are for people who are 80 years old, 80 years and older, and 20% with people who had other underlying conditions. And the video that she saw was a couple, an elderly couple, standing on their balcony, singing with another elderly couple, standing on their balcony. And though they had to keep this distance, they found a way during times where they're not just under self-isolation, they're in complete almost lockdown where they're not allowed to leave their houses. And they're singing together because the desire for hearts to connect during this time of crisis was so pure. And so though they couldn't be with their neighbors, they could at least sing their love together. And I felt this is such a beautiful teaching to all of us. Now, we're sitting in our homes, but that doesn't mean that we have to be emotionally disconnected. It is a time to open our hearts. It's a time to reach out to our loved ones, to our friends, and connect. And it's also a time of tremendous fear consciousness, where I'm beginning to think that the consciousness of fear is the virus. And you know this, that the journey is so beautiful of helping us all open into the depth of our fear to find the peace that's in the core of all suffering. And there is an underlying peace that is available that I want to welcome all of us into. And most of the fear is actually fabricated fear. It's a catastrophizing that's going on in our heads, where we're catastrophizing what's going to happen in the future. What about, my business, my work, my salary, the food, the survival. And it's triggering this life circumstances are triggering our deepest survival fears, our deepest fears of the unknown. And it is unknown. But the truth is, life has always been unknown. I know that those of you who know my story, that a year after I healed from that basketball-sized tumor, those big, huge mega fires happened in Malibu in 1993, and our house was burned down, and we lost everything. And it was an extraordinary time of not knowing, where's the money going to come from? How are we going to put a roof over our head? We were financially devastated, and no disaster relief was offered. I mean, thankfully, in the U.S., $3 trillion in disaster relief is starting to be offered to the American people. Or in Britain, a third of £1 trillion is being offered. So it's not 3 trillion, it's $1 trillion being offered to the American people, and a third of $1 trillion to the British people. And governments are starting to offer disaster relief, but we weren't offered that at that time. And I realized that projecting fear, oh my God, what's going to happen? How are we going to get a roof over our house? Where are we going to get clothes? We have no clothes left. Our cars were blown up. We have nothing left. I couldn't take time to entertain those catastrophic kind of pictures, because the truth was we didn't have anything left. And the only thing that life was offering me at that time was to surrender. Sometimes life does things that can't be changed. And us railing against it, or fighting it, or wishing it were different, or what's going to happen in the future, isn't going to change anything. It's just going to create an internal turmoil, which is going to damage your immune system, making you more vulnerable to coronavirus. And I remember just taking time to stop and open into this unknown, not knowing where anything was going to come from, not knowing how we could afford to do anything, and falling from this fear of the unknown into a deep peace inside. And it was a wordless peace. And what was interesting, it offered a wordless guidance. And suddenly it was almost like I threw the doors open to the universe to welcome help in. And I wasn't as helpless as I thought I was. And out of nowhere, I can remember I was in Santa Monica at the time, and I had soot all over my face from digging through the rubble of trying to find anything from my previous, 18 years of marriage at that point. Anything material. And so I was covered in soot. And this man who had a little stand with Coca-Cola on it. Now, I don't drink Coca-Cola, you know that about me. But he said, "Oh, ma'am, have you lost your house in the fires?" And I said, yes, we did. And he said, "Oh, here, take this Coca-Cola take this. He said, I can't give you anything more, but will you take this Coca-Cola? I want to give you something. And I realized this man needed to give to me. He needed that because it's our nature to want to give and serve at a time like this. And I said, thank you with all my heart. I thank you for your generosity. And I received the Coca-Cola, and then I gave it to somebody who does drink a Coca-Cola. And I realized that if I opened all the doors, life would flood in to support me. And I was carried through this time where a friend of mine had a mattress in his garage. He didn't feel it was comfortable, but it was a brand new mattress that he was keeping in his garage. And he offered this mattress to me. And bit by bit, as I opened my heart, I said a big yes to life, to allow in what was needed. And though there were times I only had $50 a week for my entire budget for food, somehow I felt so abundant. I felt so rich. Of course, I went and started sprouting my own seeds and nuts and eating fresh and raw fruits and vegetables, which is another thing, you know. In Britain, at least, I got an email from a friend, and she said, it's the craziest thing. It's not just toilet paper that you can't get. It's missing from all the shelves with all the panic buying. It's all the tinned, canned food. And I wrote back to her, but this is nuts. This is crazy, because at a time when we want to strengthen our immune systems, surely if the food shelves are full of fresh fruits and vegetables, people should be, you know, reaching for that to strengthen our bodies, not eating canned foods and baked beans. And, you know, obviously there's some countries where it's even hard to get that, the fresh fruit and veg. But somehow, if we open the door, there is a way that we can all support one another during this time. And that's what I'm doing here, is I am taking time to spend time with you every day to support you to come to a place of wholeness and stillness in yourself so that conscious action can be taken. Now, we needed a juicer here because ours got left in Israel. And though we had friends here, and we called them up and said, would you bring a juicer by? Because every morning I have my celery juice on waking up, and then a half hour later I have my green smoothie. And so our juicer got left in Israel on our last trip there. And she happily came by, but she just put it in our driveway and drove off again. She didn't want to have any contact because her partner, her husband, is 85 years old, and she didn't even want to get close in contact with us. But help is available in every area if you're willing to reach out and connect to that. I even ended up doing a process with Gabby. I hope you're okay with this sharing. And she just felt like an overwhelm of helplessness in her journey process. And when she opened into the helplessness, she found this deep wellspring of peace that underlies even the helplessness. And suddenly in that peace, she felt the guidedness to be able to take conscious, still action. This is what I wish for all of us, to reach out with your hearts, your being, to those in need, to give what you can, and to ask for what you need. And there is a way that even our neighbors, we can knock on doors and ask for help. We are one humanity. And If two elderly couples can sing their love to one another from two separate balconies, certainly so can we reach out to one another in just this way. Went to the grocery store yesterday, or day before yesterday, and upon going in, they of course only allow you in as there's allowed one person in with a certain amount of square footage. So Kevin and I were allowed in when two people left, and they immediately told us to go over and put on gloves. And it was the sweetest thing. This man did not speak English very well, and he made sure that we kept our 2 meters distance, which is the requirement, the law here right now. He said, I want you to know we're just learning. We're trying everything. We have cleaned this place. We have hand sanitizer for you. Everything's being washed and clean. We're learning step by step, but anything to support you in your health and your well-being during these times that we're sharing. And I thought, isn't that beautiful? Instead of insisting that we put on our gloves and follow the rules, he was coming from a place of love, a place of support in this community. And Cliff went to get, here in Greece, they are allowing restaurants not to be open. They put a tape across the door, but you are allowed to order takeout from the restaurants that are open. And Cliff went and shouted inside, and the owner came and wouldn't get close to the door, but found out what Cliff wanted, recognized him, went back in, and he said, now you go and sit in your car. You know, he was wanting Cliff to be safe. You know, Cliff's in his early 70s, you know, and he's trying to keep Cliff safe from him, not feeling like I want to be safe from you, but safe from me. And it's this kind of pulling together as community. And he brought the calamari out to the car, you know, and handed it through the window. This is what is available to us right now. And obviously, I have all the same concerns that you have. Every single one of our seminars for the next 3 months have been postponed by law, but they still keep all your money when you've paid for a seminar hall. All of our, in my case, dozens of flights, they're not giving me refunds. They're just giving me vouchers for future flights. All my hotels, they're not giving me refunds. They're just saying next time you want to stay here, you have this banked amount. And still something is at peace here with this that cannot be changed. And so how can we, as a journey community, make the most of these most difficult times? So I'm asking you, reach out to friends. Do your processes via Skype. If you have fears of your own, get the journey book online and do the processes at the back of the book. You can do them over Skype, or if you're self-isolating as I am with Gabby and Cliff and Kevin, well, with each other. I mean, I was giving Gabby a process today, you know, based on, you know, the fears that are assaulting her at this moment. We have some of the most powerful tools on the planet. And even as you're watching this, I want to ask you just to try a little experiment here. Most of our fear is imagining what would happen. What could happen to me? Making pictures of the worst case scenario, of the disaster that was going to happen to me. They fire off a biochemistry inside our bodies, which heightens and creates an adrenal anxiety response, which then floods your body with biochemicals that are damaging to you. And so if you find yourself that these pictures are just coming and coming, and the thoughts are just coming and coming, just stop. Breathe. Bring all of your attention just to this moment. Bring all of your awareness right to this millisecond. No thought of past, no thought of future. Just bring all of your focus and rivet it in the now. If you are doing this, you are already experiencing that thought-free stillness. Just try it, this experiment. Take all of your attention and rivet it right into this moment, into the now. What's here? This stillness is always here. And you are capable of bringing yourself home and living moment by moment from this stillness, listening to the needs of this moment, not of your fears born from past experiences, not of your imagining of the worst that could happen, but simply responding to this moment. A wordless guidance will pull you where you need to go. And life will slow down a bit. And you'll find that you're feeling more at home in yourself. So though at the moment we cannot change our external circumstances, we certainly can change our internal response. Now, one of the things that we're going to be offering you in this community, and it's going to keep growing and growing, all of what we're offering you to support you during this time, is every day there's going to be a meditation, a guided introspection. I did for the Mentors channel a 21-day healing channel, and the first 7 days are about emotional healing. The second 7 days are about physical healing or mental healing, and the third is about physical healing. And it's 15 minutes each day, regardless of what's going on with you, that you give to yourself, where you let yourself take 15 minutes to be quiet and address some aspect of emotional, mental, and physical well-being. I promise you, you will find that a lot of joy and gratitude becomes available. I've noticed that since I've got here, there's just been tears of awe. I remember driving from the airport with what was a pretty wicked cold, with Gabby in the car, looking out and seeing the first shoots of spring, and the wonder of that. Almost as if I was being invited by nature to open into that same place. And after 2 days of being here, I found that not a lot of speaking was available to me, that it was like nature itself was inviting me into a quiet. And I woke up one morning and like tender shoots of creativity were beginning to rise out of the stillness. And it reminded me of 26 years ago when I first gave birth to the whole journey method, that there was an unknown quality to it, a newness, and yet somehow life was birthing this profound healing method through me, and that as a second invitation's being made. Even though over the years, countless seminars have birthed itself, and the work has evolved and changed and grown and deepened, etc., etc., it was like right now we're living in the unknown, and tender shoots of possible creativity arising into wherever the world is taking us right now. And I know it's a time where it's like I'm in an incubation period where these shoots are starting of creativity to come up, where an invitation's being made by life for a new way forward with the journey. I don't know what that is, but it's also kind of an exciting time. I know they always say that excitement is nervousness with a smile, but this is not coming from nervousness. This is coming from an invitation that I feel that the whole world is being given right now. That maybe it's time for us all to turn within, to focus on what matters in life, to become still, to reach out, to open our hearts, to connect in this most miraculous way we have of connecting, as we are now, online and on telephones and with each other. Maybe it's a time for a deeper way of living life than just sending Instagram pictures. Maybe it's time of connecting with what's true and what's real. I can tell you, I actually teared up when Cliff and Kevin arrived the night before we went into lockdown, and just the privilege of having my beloveds home with me. We take all of these things so much for granted. And so let's use this time, this meaningful time, trusting that you will be supported. I was carried through that time that the house burned down, and we will all be carried through this time. We all need to trust in that. And so I so look forward to connecting with you again tomorrow, and we'll be connecting in this way every day. Some days I'll take you right into deep process work. But I wanted to make this first initial message prior to getting into any process work or meditations or anything. My heart is with you, and I am part of you as you are part of me. And we're all of us part of the one fabric that life is, this tapestry that we call life. Big love to you, blessings to you, and I pray, share this with your friends. Everyone needs to come home during this tumultuous time. Namaste.